I met Lauren by chance. If I hadn't been running late for work that morning and decided to grab coffee at the first place I saw, we might have never met. She worked at a small cafe near my office, sharp facial features, dark auburn hair tied in a messy ponytail, and deep brown eyes. Her voice was calm, slightly husky, and her smile, one you wouldn't forget. "Latte, no sugar?" she asked with a knowing smile as I approached the counter. I raised an eyebrow. "You remember?" I have a good memory for faces and orders. I didn't know then that this ability of hers, remembering small details about people, would one day become a trap for me. At first, it was just a pleasant acquaintance. We chatted every morning, exchanging jokes and well wishes. "Late again?" she teased one day as she handed me my coffee. I smirked. "I always have an extra 5 minutes. And then you sprint to the elevator like a madman. You watching me?" She winked. Just a good memory. That effortless charm pulled me in. One evening, I saw her in the park after work. She was sitting on a bench, absorbed in a book. "Heavy reading?" I leaned in to see the cover. "Relationship psychology. Trying to understand men." She chuckled. "More like people in general. Why they make choices that destroy them." That was the first deep question she ever asked me. And then came many more. "Do you believe people change?" "Do you?" "I think people adapt, but their core remains the same." These conversations pulled us closer and closer. Before long, we started spending more time together. Dinners, movies, long walks. She was always attentive to details. She could recall the color of the shirt I wore on our first date or adjust the playlist in the car to match my mood. "You read minds, don't you?" I joked once. She smiled. "I just pay attention." Back then it felt sweet. Time passed and we grew even closer. She was affectionate yet intense. Her moods changed unpredictably and I got used to adjusting to them. One evening, she suddenly withdrew. When I asked what was wrong, she sighed and said, "Nothing. Just thinking. Maybe I don't deserve you." It threw me off. I felt guilty, though I had done nothing wrong. So I tried harder to show her how much she meant to me. Looking back, that was exactly what she wanted. I had always believed in honesty and partnership. I thought relationships should be built on trust, and money was just a tool, not a goal. Lauren was the woman I envisioned a future with. Beautiful, smart, captivating. We had been together for over 2 years, and I thought I knew her. I was wrong. Our relationship developed quickly but naturally. I felt like she understood me better than anyone. "We're a team, right?" she would say. And I agreed. We supported each other in everything. Work, dreams, plans. I made good money, and covering most of our expenses never bothered me. Dinners, vacations, travel, I enjoyed providing for her because I wanted to give her the best. When we started discussing moving in together, I saw it as the next logical step. One weekend, we went to check out some apartments. "This one is perfect," she said, admiring the spacious living room. "It's a bit over budget, though. I can take out a loan for part of it, and you can cover the down payment. We'll pay off the rest together." I agreed. The place was amazing. But when it came to signing the paperwork, Lauren had a new suggestion. "It's better if the property is in my name." I frowned. "Why?" "Simple. As a woman, I get better insurance rates and tax benefits. I could put it in my name. If we do that, we'll end up paying more in taxes and insurance. It's just financial logic." It sounded reasonable. "But I'm putting in more money." "We can document that in a separate agreement." She found a lawyer who drafted the contract. "This states that you contributed more and that if we ever separate, we divide the assets proportionally." The document seemed fair. So I agreed. I didn't realize when things started shifting. It wasn't overnight. At first, Lauren was just attentive. She noticed things others ignored. She could tell when I was having a bad day and would do something special for me. She knew when I hadn't slept well, when I was stressed about work, when I just needed silence. It felt like she understood me better than I understood myself. But over time, that attention became control. "Why didn't you answer right away?" she asked once when I missed a call during a meeting. "I was busy." "But you always pick up, even if just to say you'll call back." "Lauren, I was in an important meeting." She said nothing, but her face turned cold. Next time she called, I made sure to answer immediately. Gradually, she started criticizing people around me. "Your friend Josh, he's using you. He always wants something, but never gives anything in return. We've been friends for years. That doesn't mean anything. Look at how he manipulates you." At first, I brushed it off, but over time, I started noticing what she pointed out. She made me doubt my own instincts. One night, I stayed late at a company party. "If you love me, you wouldn't want to spend your evening with a bunch of drunk co-workers," she texted. I left the party early. Then it happened again. "If you love me, you won't go on that business trip. If you love me, you'll call me the moment you get home. If you love me, then..." It became a trap. I distanced myself from friends, talked less with colleagues, even my family. Lauren became the center of my world. Then one night at a bar, I noticed something. She was laughing with a guy I didn't know, leaning in just a little too close. When I arrived, she smiled and introduced me. "Oh, here he is. Meet Oliver, an old friend." Oliver looked at me, slightly uneasy. Finally, we meet. Throughout the night, I noticed small things. The way he stole quick glances at her, how she turned away for a fraction of a second when I caught her gaze. "Oliver's really just an acquaintance, huh?" I asked later. She hesitated, then shrugged. "More or less. We crossed paths once and he was nice." "He likes you," she laughed. "Oh, come on, we're just talking." "But he wants more." She sighed. Even if he did, it wouldn't change anything. Something about her tone didn't sit right. But like before, I ignored it. And then everything got worse.
Lauren became distant. At first, I thought it was just work stress. She often complained about being exhausted, talked about new projects that took up all her time. I tried to support her, asked if there was anything I could do to help, but she would just give me a tired smile and say she just needed some space. I didn't realize right away that space meant pulling away from me. She started spending more nights at her friend's place, canceling our weekend plans or just ignoring my messages. When we were together, she felt different. Her voice was colder, her touch less frequent, our conversations shorter. One evening, I suggested a weekend getaway, like we used to do before. "Sorry, I have plans," she said, not even looking up from her phone. "Lauren, we barely see each other. You're always busy." She sighed, put her phone down, and looked at me with tired patience. "Nathan, let's not make this a big deal, okay?" I felt something heavy tighten in my chest. "And it's not about drama. I just feel like something's wrong. If there's a problem, just tell me." She said nothing. Then she got up and walked out of the room. A few weeks later, when the distance between us had become almost physical, she finally said it. "We need to talk." I knew what she was going to say, but I forced myself to pretend I didn't. "About what?" "We need to break up." Her voice was calm, almost cold. "Why?" "We're just different." I looked at her, searching for something familiar in her eyes, but they were empty. "We've always been different, Lauren. That was never a problem before. I don't feel the same way anymore." She said it like we were discussing the weather. "Is this final?" My voice shook slightly, but I kept my emotions in check. "Yes." I nodded silently. She stood up, grabbed her phone, and walked out of the apartment without even saying goodbye. The door closed, and I was left sitting there in the dark, listening to the silence. I thought that was the end, but I had no idea the real nightmare was just beginning. After the breakup, I decided to give myself time to heal. I moved in with a friend to avoid going back to the apartment where every corner reminded me of her.
A month after we broke up, I received a letter from her lawyer. Lauren was claiming a share of our assets, including the apartment. I couldn't believe it. I had trusted her, and that trust turned into my downfall. I immediately consulted a lawyer. "I have proof that almost all the money was mine." He carefully reviewed the documents, then sighed. Everything you transferred to her account is legally considered voluntary contributions. Without a clear agreement, you won't be able to prove it was a loan or shared property. I felt my legs weaken, but she knew it was my money. That doesn't matter in court. We still filed a lawsuit, hoping to challenge her claims. At the first hearing, Lauren arrived in an expensive suit with a lawyer and a thick folder of documents. "Your Honor," she spoke in a soft but confident voice, "I was financially dependent on Mr. Nathan. He insisted that I accept his help. I didn't want to, but what could I do?" She played the victim masterfully. "He transferred money to me voluntarily. They were gifts," she added with a shrug. Her lawyer confirmed, "The lack of a legal agreement means Mr. Nathan has no grounds to demand any compensation." The court ruled against me. The apartment remained hers. I didn't receive a cent. But that wasn't the end. Soon after, I received another lawsuit. Lauren claimed I had emotionally pressured her in our relationship. She accused me of financial control, emotional manipulation, and even psychological abuse. I couldn't believe this was the same person I once loved. The legal battle dragged on for months. My lawyer advised me not to fall for provocations, not to react emotionally, and to trust the legal process. I won the case regarding emotional pressure, but the losses I suffered were enormous. After all the legal proceedings, I was left with almost nothing. I had to start over. As I packed my things from the apartment, she sat calmly on the couch, not even looking at me. "It was nice while it lasted," she said coldly. I barely restrained myself from throwing something heavy at her. I had to start from scratch. I had to sell my car to cover legal expenses. I moved into a small rented apartment in another part of the city. It was much smaller than the one I had shared with Lauren, but at least there were no ghosts of the past. I felt like I could begin anew. In the first weeks after all that chaos, I walked around as if in a fog. It was hard to accept that someone I had trusted, someone who had seemed so close, could use me so cynically and cold-bloodedly. But gradually, I started moving forward. I focused on work, reconnected with old friends I had neglected during the relationship, spent more time with family, actually listening to their advice, the ones I had ignored before. One day, I accidentally saw Lauren on the street. She was walking arm in arm with a new man, laughing. She looked just as carefree as the day she told me we were just too different. I no longer felt anger or pain. I simply walked past. Later, I found out that she had gotten involved in legal trouble again. Her new partner had sued her for real estate fraud. It made me think, maybe I wasn't the only one she had used. Maybe this was just her way of life. But I no longer cared. I had learned one important thing. Trust isn't blind faith in another person, but a balance between feelings and common sense. I was no longer the naive guy who had once believed in the sincerity of her words. I had become stronger,